Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Graduate School's Professional Development Series. Today, we are delighted to be talking about negotiating your salary. And we have Shawn Pewitt of the Wayne State University Career Services here with us. My name is Nick Matar. I am the Director of Marketing at the Graduate School. And really quickly before we begin, just a couple of quick administrative notes. First off, we have a pretty good presentation ahead of us, but if you have any questions, and I anticipate a lot of people will, be sure to use the chat to actually ask your questions. We'll do our best to answer them as we go along here, and I'll be sure to try and grab any remaining ones at the end. And then also, we are recording this, so we'll try to make this available as quickly as possible on our YouTube channel afterwards. And hopefully we'll be able to provide some details and some best practices and tips and tricks to people afterwards who watch the recording as well. But without any other further ado, like to go ahead and welcome Shawn Pewitt, who is back for her second professional development series event with us. She was previously with us a couple of years ago, but today I know this is a highly anticipated event. A lot of graduate students have asked about it, and so we are here ready to provide some best practices for you. So Shawn, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Nick. Hello to everyone. Again, my name is Shawn Pewitt. I'm the Director of Career Services, have served in this capacity almost 4 years as interim, and then just this April was appointed as the Director of Career Services. So I'm so glad to be with you. I want to echo what Nick said about questions. I do have a PowerPoint prepared. I want to try not to hurt you by PowerPoint slide, but I do want to share some things with you today. I have an agenda, but of course, if there are questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. And if I don't see them, Nick is watching out for them. So today I want to talk about and you can put this in the chat as well, like what is your dream job? Talk a little bit about my own career journey, and you'll understand why. I'm going to tell you about that more. And then now that you have the job offer, what do you do, right? The employer perspective, assessing your value, determining your salary and compensation requests, the actual negotiation, what things you need to remember. Then finally, just some basic best practices, and hope to have some time for a Q&A. And I think that's pretty important as we go along. I see a question already. So if you can put in the chat for me, what is your dream job and why? And then we'll sort of have a few takeaways from that. And feel free to add. No one's adding, so someone's got to have a dream job. Okay. Project manager, HR. Can I get one or two people to unmute? And Nick has to unmute you, I think, to let me know who you are, why that's your dream job, and yeah, why did you choose it as your dream job? Latoya has raised her hand.
Can you hear me?
I can.
So I am on a tablet, so I couldn't put it in the chat, and I put faculty and research assistant, hopefully, entering into that as faculty, tenure track faculty. And it is my dream job. I've been striving for it since the mid 2000s when I started undergrad. And so I currently work as a researcher at Wayne. I really enjoy the work and enjoy what I do and enjoy publishing and research. Right now I'm working on the PhD, and of course I want to be able to be PI and do my own thing. Currently, I have an MSW, MPH, and I have to work under someone else. And so it's my dream job because I can be PI and actually be able to do my own thing and study exactly what I would like to study.
Okay, thank you so much. So during this conversation, I hope that as you're continuing to prepare yourself for your dream job, you'll get some tips for how to negotiate when you get your dream job. Anyone, just one more person who would like to share. Shatha.
Hello, everyone. I'm not sure if you hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. My name is Shada, and I am in my second year in the Miller program, Masters of Arts in Employment and Labor Relations at Wayne State University. And I have 15 plus years of experience with several United Nations agencies, but in the field. Why I want to be a HR manager, because to be honest, it's time for me to shift from field to office work, where I still be advocating and for the applicants or refugees that we work with, as well as the employees and staff member that I'll be working closely with as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. So just one of the reasons I had everyone mention what their dream job was, because whether you're going into a career transition, just starting out in the workforce, you need to be informed as you go into your interviewing process, getting the job offer. So this information is pertinent to all of us, no matter what stage you're in your career. A little bit about me and my own career journey. I started out a little bit later in life than most people, getting my undergrad in 2007 from the University of Troy Mercy, and then finishing up with my master's in 2016 at the University of Troy Mercy, and started out in career development as an employer relations, and didn't have a whole lot of experience as an employer relations, but in my local place of worship had spent a lot of time organizing conferences and workshops. So my volunteer work really was my experience. Went on to Davenport University because I was getting bored and wanted to do something different. As a career coordinator, was able to do some supervision with student employees. Then went on, yes, I moved around a lot in career development in different universities. Landed a job at Macomb Community College as a career coordinator, and had the opportunity to work with underserved populations and under a grant that was given to Macomb Community College to train underserved populations. That grant ended, was without a job for a while, and landed a position at Wayne State as a career advisor here at University Counselor One, and really loved the work that I was doing here. Was able to be a liaison for what used to be Warrior VIP, helped to broaden the scope of the work that we do here in career services at Wayne State University. My predecessor, my boss, was getting ready to retire, and I was asked, after 2 years of being a University Counselor One, to step up and be the interim director here at Wayne State University. And the reason I mention all that, because during all those times, all those different transitions, not once did I think about negotiating a salary. And I'm someone who works in career development. So I had my own lesson to learn. It wasn't until I actually became interim that I'm sorry. That's okay. It wasn't until I became interim that I decided that I needed to just make some changes and was able to negotiate some things for myself, and then was appointed again after a few years of being interim, appointed as the career services director here at Wayne State University. And I say all that to say this, that no matter where you are in your career, making sure that you know your value, making sure that you know the importance of negotiating salary, negotiating your worth too. It's not just salary, and we'll talk more about that, but making sure that the job that you want, the job offer that you're about to accept, if you do accept it, meets the values, the overall holistic approach of who you are met as you're going into deciding whether or not you'll take this offer, right? So you have the job offer. Now what? Believe it or not, you need to think about reviewing the job description. Because a lot of times when we are actually, after we've interviewed for the position, we don't read the fine print. So go back and read the job description. Does it really meet the values? Do you really know what you'll be doing, right? Evaluate the offer. What is it exactly that they are asking, that they're saying that they want you to do, right? And how much, again, is the salary? Does it really meet your needs? Don't decide right away. Be absolutely certain that the position is right for you. What's your career vision? I know you're saying, what does that mean, Shawn? Because when we talk about organizations that they have a vision, but what is your vision for yourself? What is your vision for your professional career? What is your vision as you're moving forward? How do you see yourself moving in the workplace, right? And then also one thing that I talk a lot about, and I've been able to do some workshops with HR here, the Human Resources Department here, on having a personal career advisory board. And what does that mean? These are folks who can help you make your decisions as you're moving along your career, including if you have to evaluate a job offer, a salary offer, right? And so those people are what I consider a mentor, a coach, and a sponsor. These are all people who are helping you along your career trajectory, helping you make decisions, helping opening doors for you, and coaching you through the process. So you can go to them as well. If you don't have one, I would encourage you to get one. And then think about the salary range, which is the most important, right? So what is the salary? You need to do some research in terms of that. What are you willing to take? What's the lowest amount that you're willing to take? You should have a range, the highest to the lowest, right? You're going to need to know, based on the type of position that you have, your experience, your skills, as you're doing research, you're going to have to find out, okay, so this is the amount that I'm willing to take. This is the lowest, because in many instances, employers will sometimes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, they may be on the lower side. And so you need to decide, I'm going to walk away if it's too low, or I'm only going to take this amount. But you have to have that in mind after doing your research. And you can do research on Glassdoor, Indeed.com, that's salary.com, and do a comparison based on your experience that you've already had, and don't lowball yourself, okay? And then also, if you're working for a public university, you can find out the salary of other folks in your position. Talk to people who are in the position that you're actually being offered. And then think about compensation too, because it's not just salary. What kind of compensation do you have? What kind of perks will you have? Again, do your research. Is it the kind of environment and culture that you really want to be in? So it's more than just salary. Do you feel psychologically safe? Would you feel psychologically safe in the environment? So do some research in terms of people that already work at the company where you have received the offer. Again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And I want to say a little bit about the employer perspective too, because that's a part of your research as well. You may face some resistance, right? Employers want you to take, generally, they want you to take what they've offered at the very first, when they make the offer. But you have an obligation to yourself and where you want to go moving forward to wait a minute, think about it, and then make the decision based on what your needs are, what your values are, what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on in terms of the cost of living, right? And for those of us who identify as women, women generally will get an offer that's much lower. I'm not making it up. Statistically, that's true. So we want to make sure that we know exactly what we're getting to. Again, we've done the research. We're evaluating our own accomplishments, our skills, our education, our professional experience, and then also thinking about what are the things that excite us. But in terms, again, of the employer, they're negotiating based on budget, right? And so that's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about bottom line. They're thinking about the human resource policy and guidelines in terms of how they're thinking about the negotiation. So just having an idea of how they're thinking is pretty important. I see a question. Let's see. There's a question about the PhD program. Maybe we can talk about that at the very end. So I will get back to that. And again, I want to go back again, and I'm going to hear me say this a lot during this conversation. Think about what is your value and what's the difference between your value and the market value. So your value are all the things that I just talked about, your accomplishments, your skills, your education, your professional experience really in the job market. And then you think about what's going on right now in the market, right? And compare those things, your skills, what you see happening in the market, what things are going on, how do your skills compare to what's going on in the market? And that's your market value, right? Again, considering your skills, considering your education, what's really important to you, what interests you. Going beneath the titles, look at the roles and responsibilities, map that out in your portfolio. How do you want to see yourself grow professionally if you take this job offer? Are there opportunities for growth? Are there opportunities for professional development? Look at the, I'm sorry, I couldn't see that for a moment. You also want to look at the viability of the organization. Are they doing well in the stock market if they're, publicly owned company? Do you see there's growth potential? Are there things happening? Have they had a lot of layoffs? You should consider all of those things. You want to determine your salary and compensation requests. What are the expected work hours? Many of us want to work remote. Some of us are still working in person. What is it that you need as you're moving forward, as you consider this offer? Are there bonuses, right? A bonus because you're working overtime. What are the benefits? Do you get tuition reimbursement? What are the perks? Is there like more vacation time? Are there 2 weeks vacation time? Do you get time off before Christmas, during the Christmas holiday? You have to prepare yourself to think about all of those types of things. Is there childcare for those of us who have small children? Are there employee resource groups, right? Is there support in many different ways? Is there mental health benefits, right? Because we've gone through a lot in these last few years with the pandemic. So considering all those things is not just the salary, but everything in the environment, everything that you can consider when it comes to work. Take a holistic approach when you're thinking about determining your salary and your compensation request. And then finally, negotiation. It's a conversation. It's small talk is important. Getting to know who is the person I'm going to be talking to during this negotiation. Knowing what their position is, knowing what their background is, knowing what your target salary is, what's the median for the position. You don't want to, again, lowball yourself. Don't negotiate with yourself. Don't talk yourself out of negotiation, right? But be anchored by your target. Know what you will walk away from, right? And what is your desired title? Is the title important, right? Thinking about how you're going to even like arrange the time and how will it be in person, will it be virtual to have this conversation? Because remember, you won't be taking, you won't say yes to the offer right away. Give yourself some time to think, ask the employer how much time you have to think about it. They'll always give you a time frame, usually a week. 7 days is usually the normal, the average, right? But again, treat it as a conversation. During this time of negotiation, you're making your case. So you're confident because you've done your research. You're confident because you know your values. You're confident because you know the position, the title, the benefits that are important to you. And then you're able to articulate that really well during this negotiation. Anticipate responses. Anticipate your the reactions from the person, from the company. Demonstrate your confidence. Confidence is really important. Being likable, believe it or not, is really important. And be prepared. So as you're doing your research, as you're reviewing the job description, as you're thinking about your values, as you're thinking about the market value, as you're looking at the different salaries and you're deciding what range, right? Do like many of us have done, practice like a mini elevator pitch to those who are in your professional circle, to those who are on your personal career advisory board, to a mentor, to a coach. Practice actually doing the negotiation. Don't be disappointed if things don't go as you think they should, because again, it's practice, but make sure that you have all of your information, all of the research that is still aligned with what your values are, because there may be an opportunity for you to grow in a different way to have as you move forward. You may not get exactly what you want in terms of salary or even title, but think about other things. Again, is there an opportunity for growth? How long would I have to stay in this position before I move on to something? What are the requirements to move on to another position? Do I have an opportunity to have a mentor while I'm in this position? Mentorship is really important as you move along your professional development in your career, right? When how are salary increases given? What are they based on? What's the evaluation system? So learning about all those sorts of things are pretty important. And then, of course, show enthusiasm that you're interested in the position as you're having this conversation. Don't be on the attack. Don't seem like it's all or nothing for you. Remember, this is a negotiation and it's ongoing. If you decide to take a particular offer, remember, you're negotiating the entire time as you do your work, as you are innovative, as you bring more to the table, then you're able to, okay, maybe in a year, share with your supervisor what you've done. And then there's another negotiation that needs to go on, and continue to think about all the things, all the experiences that you acquired in that time. And then again, you're going to assess where you are and then say, this is the range that I think I should be in, and decide, this is how I want to move forward. And finally, some best practices. Think before you ask, right? Preparation is key. Communicate your value. Ask for more than just salary. Check your mindset. Make sure that you're going in with a positive mindset, with an open mind, with flexibility, adaptability in how you're thinking about what it is you want to do. Don't distort or misrepresent your experience. Practice again the conversation, and then know your limits. Know how far you're willing to go in terms of salary, in terms of compensation. If there's just some deal breakers. Like there's just some things that I need to have in my environment as I'm working. And if I don't have those things, then that's probably not the position for me. Money for me isn't everything. There's some other things that I need. I need to have some psychological safety at work. I need to be in an environment where I'm valued, right? I need to be in an environment where I'm growing, where there's potential for growth. So all those things, considering, once again, all those things are really important, but you got to also know your limits. Now that was pretty quick, but do I have any questions? Okay. What about negotiating via email rather than conversation? Anything you would change? Okay, so I have negotiated via email, and the best thing to do is to think about where you are, what you've done. If this is your first negotiation, truthfully, I would try to negotiate more in a virtual space or in person. This is my opinion. But if you're comfortable doing via email and the other person is comfortable as well, then you want to be really specific and take into mind the many things that I've talked about, not just the salary, right? Still do your research, give a range, but make sure the range is still fits your needs economically, still fits your needs as far as like you feeling valued, right? And ask all the questions in terms of what are the benefits, what are the perks, what other things will I be compensated for? Are there opportunities for professional development? Are there opportunities to have a mentor? Are there different opportunities to, I don't know, present information if you need to lead a project? Okay, so I think email can work, but I would prefer doing it in person or via Zoom. Is there a percentage that we should start with when negotiating? I've heard and see that 10% is the starting point, but should a negotiating start higher than that? I've also heard that, but I think, again, you need to consider what is the industry, right? And then also do your research in terms of what are people who have that position, what are they making at this time based on the experience that they have? I'm getting a lot of questions at the same. What are some technical words you think we can use, obviously in professional environment, when negotiating? Technical words or sentences that we can use. Well, can Heidi come off of mute and tell me a little bit more about that?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I'm just wondering, like, when negotiating, there's sometimes, I know there's like certain words that you should be using and other words that you should not be using. Um, um, it's just like in a technical matter, is there any like preferences in how we like conduct like the negotiation or um, I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, but I hear, no, you are, yes, you are making sense. I hear what you're saying. I think you should use words that show, one, when you're talking about your skills and your values. So you're using, those power words to show that that's demonstrated that you've done this, that you had your skill in this area. You don't want to sound demanding, but you want to sound confident, right? And pull from the job description to really substantiate why you believe you should be getting the salary, the compensation that you have asked for, right? You do still want to be polite, believe it or not. You still want to be polite, you still want to be professional. The technical words are more about Heidi. I'm sorry, go right ahead, Heidi, because maybe I'm not answering the question. Yes.
Like basically we can use words or skills that exist, for example, in the job description or like qualification as our personal like skill set, maybe if that fits, like if that makes sense.
Well, it's almost like if you want to think about, and I know some people have their own perception and belief about the importance of cover letters, but it's almost like an in-person cover letter. You're substantiating everything, your skills but with your skills and with your experience while you're having the conversation about negotiations. The times that I've had to negotiate in terms of a salary or getting a bump or getting a new position, I delineated very clearly the things that I've done, how I, with my skills and my experience, how I made changes, in particular in one instance, to really substantiate the reason why I needed or deserved a salary bump. Right? So that if you're talking in terms of technical words, it's always associated with whatever industry that you're actually applying for. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, someone asked me something. What's my experience with negotiating salary with Wayne State? So that's Mike, to be really candid and to be really transparent. That has been my experience, negotiating a salary within Wayne State. And I did have to consider the work that I've done. I did have to consider my experiences, how I moved things forward, how I compared in terms of my colleagues at different universities, right? Doing the same work that I do. So I had to consider all of that and shared that when I was negotiating. Did that answer your question? I want to go back to, is it Dejane Douglas? You're asking about on the application for salary requirements, do you put the range listed on the posting? If that range meets your needs, then absolutely. If it doesn't, then you need to think about what range does. Always, this is, again, my opinion, but I have heard it in other spaces and doing some of the research that I've done, make sure that the range makes sense for you, right? Can you live comfortably within that range? Highest to the lowest. When you put a range, make sure the low still will accommodate all your needs. Everything that you need to take care of for your life, saving, your living expenses. If you have childcare expenses, think about that. Because sometimes what happens when we get our first, especially our first job offer, we're so excited to get the job offer. I know what happened to me. I was so excited to get a job offer after my first degree that I really, really took way less than I really should have. I didn't do my research. I was in career development and I didn't do my research. I didn't look around and see into where other folks were doing in this position, what I was asked to do. So make sure after the excitement that you actually do your research. So again, if the salary requirements meet your needs, then sure. But if they don't, then put a more realistic one that works for you. And you're going to find out the range based on where we live, right? The cost of living here in Metro Detroit. Do you have a car note? Do you have, these are basic things. Consider all those things. Can I live? And then also think about the perks that they have, the compensation. If you work for a university, if you work for whoever you work for, is there some sort of tuition reimbursement if you want to go back to school, right? Is all my professional development paid for? Do I get to go to conferences and I don't have to pay for it? So you think about all of those things. I see another question. How much will it be? I'm sorry, someone has a question and I can't quite see it. It's from Shahatha. Nick, do you think you can read that? Because I'm only getting, I don't know what's going on with my screen, but I'm only getting part of it.
Sure.
Thank you.
So how improper or harmful would it be if we make a potentially high offer at first, but then concede on a lower one when we see that the other side is not responding or not willing to accommodate our first offer?
That is an excellent question. Well, I think that happens a lot. And I think even within that, you have to really make sure that if you're conceding to a lower salary, that you're making sure that you're getting some other benefits or perks or compensation in a different way. Will I have a different title that would lead me more into leadership if that's what I want to do? will I have other experiences that will make it beneficial for me to take this lower rate of salary? So that's something you do have to decide. There are other ways of getting your needs met. And I know I've said that a few times, but that's really what it is. And then you also have to decide at some point, is this something that maybe now I need to walk away? And I'm not encouraging people to just quit their jobs. That is not my job to do that. But you do have to decide, is the compensation that I'm receiving, that I've been offered, is it enough to take care of what I need to take care of in my life? Just basic needs, but then also, is this enough for me to make the next move that I want to make in my career? Because not only are you deciding for a salary now, you're also deciding for a salary as you move forward. Because I just heard this actually today, that if we decide to sometimes take a lower salary, that actually that affects our entire history of salary, right? And so you want to think about that as well. So I started out a little bit lower, so I feel like I'm always playing catch up, and I'm just being really transparent about that. And I'm really grateful for where I am now. But what I'm saying is, yeah, you do have to think about that. I don't know if I would say it's repercussions per se, but you have to think about what's best for you, and then also think about where you are in your career. You also have to think about, would you be able to move forward if you didn't, in the way that you wanted to, if you did not take this particular job offer? Does that make sense?
There was another question from Shatha from earlier. I don't know if you addressed it, but
Didn't.
it was how much leverage or right do we have to compare our salary offer to others who are working in the same company that we received the job offer from? Is it ethical? And what if we have the same qualifications and years of experience?
That happens all the time. And I think, the old way of thinking is that you don't talk about your salary, but I believe that people are talking about it more and more. And so you should know what others are making, right? In terms of, now, some people may not want to share it. They may not want to share it, but there are ways of, again, if you work for a public university, like Wayne State University, everybody knows everybody's salary. That's just the way it is, because it's public knowledge and it's published. But you do have a right to compare. That's exactly what we're talking about today. You do have a right to compare, and that's one of your negotiating tools. Here's my experience. It's the same as everyone else, and this is why I believe I should be making this. It's not. I don't believe it's unethical. You may not say the person's name or something like that, but after doing my research, I've learned that there are people that are making more than me and doing the same work that I do. So there's a way to finesse it to make sure that you're being professional and not calling out people, but that's certainly part of the research that you're doing. Nick, if you don't mind, you can read the next question. For some reason, as I'm trying to negotiate, I'm not seeing the entire questions when I try.
Sure.
Thank you.
So another one, if you are new to your field, but have work experience in a different field and the salary is too low, but that's what it is, how much can you push for a higher salary?
Another really good question. You can push for it if you're able to, you need to be able to articulate how those skills that from a different field are helpful and beneficial to your current position. And if you're able to do that really well, because there are transferable skills, these are things we talk about with our students and alumni all the time. There are just some transferable skills, some transferable experiences that you're able to utilize in the current position that you're in, right? So if you're able to articulate that and creatively talk about that, then you should be able to push a little bit more for a higher salary. That is my belief. I can be transparent again and tell you, so both my degrees are in history. I'm not teaching history, but my experiences and what I've done over the years, right? Even as when I first started out, just my experience as a volunteer got me my first job. So if you're able to articulate that through your resume, through your conversation during the interview, then yes, I think that there is some room for negotiating a higher salary. Angela, did that help?
I'm not sure if you can see the last one too. There's another one. So I'm going to reword this one
Okay,
a little
thank you.
bit. So let's say you said yes to a salary, but then for a job, but then after speaking with coworkers, you've learned that you were lowballed. When can you renegotiate your salary? When can you have that conversation?
Wow. I think that happens more than we're probably willing to talk about. But that is a great question. So I think I have to tread lightly on this one. This is an important, really important one. Again, I think being able to articulate and not focusing so much on, well, they got it and I didn't, but being able to articulate in a professional way that, and this may be challenging, right? Because you've already negotiated in your salary. So there may be some time that you have to wait before you can go back and really talk about a different salary, right? There also, it depends on where you're working. Some organizations, you may need to talk directly to HR to move that needle. Other organizations, you may need to talk directly to your supervisor. So just be aware of like the context too, right? If you're talking to HR, and you might want to start with HR, no matter where you are. Come to think about it, I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head. And I think that can be a challenge, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed if you're going to be able to work at your best potential in that position. And so you will have to have a courageous and candid conversation with either the HR folks in the organization or your current boss. I would say talk first to a mentor, to that career advisory board. If you don't have one, again, you need to get yourself a career advisory board and think about how you can articulate that in a way that it won't be off-putting to others. It may be anyhow, because you're in a difficult situation. But then also, again, and I know I've said this several times, think about, are there other ways that I can be compensated to make up for that salary gap, right? Do I need to wait? You may need to wait 6 months until you get more into the position. You've made some strides in the position, and then say, I need to revisit this. I'm 6 months in. I feel like I should be making this based on my research. Others at the university, and you don't have to say it's your colleague right where you are, but based on my research at the university or whatever organization, this is what others are making, and I believe that I deserve that as well. So it's going to be a process, right? But once you learn that, I think you're obligated to yourself to actually have that conversation, knowing that there may be pushback from the organization. So you have to be ready for that as well. Was that helpful?
I got a quick question as well that was sent to me directly.
Okay.
And actually it relates to exactly what you said. It's a good transition. What are some other ways to be compensated through benefits or other perks that are not salary related?
So, and I think I mentioned some of them earlier, but like for those of us, my child's grown, but perhaps getting free childcare, again, tuition reimbursement, professional development, guaranteed mentorship, what else might be? But all of those are things that I can think of right now. But those, anything that's going to provide you with like a more fully or holistic experience while you're working, right? If you're able to get additional, it's just like tuition reimbursement, but additional education, right? Additional training. Does that make sense? Also, if you're able to go to conferences, I think I said that earlier as well. So anything like that that helps to build your professional portfolio in some way. If you're able to serve on committees, right? Within the organization. I hope that helps.
I think that was the last question that I saw. So yeah, well, last call for any questions. Hadi, I don't know if you meant to have your hand up still, but you know, you can come back off of mute here if you did have another question. I guess not.
And someone put in the chat really some other benefits as well, a relocation bonus, which I did not mention that, and that's pretty important as well, if you need to relocate. A signing bonus, now that I think about it, right? Any other things that I missed or that you had questions about?
All right. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for joining us here today. And you know, I don't know if you can put your email also in the chat,
Okay.
just in case anybody has any other questions for you, or questions might come up later.
I'm willing to do this, and I forgot. I want to give a shout out because the next week, Thursday, October the 11th, is our virtual career fair. We have over 100 employers that will be meeting with alumni and current students, recent grads, and then also on the 12th, which is Thursday from 12 to 5. Both our fairs are from 12 to 5. We have our in-person career fair here on campus. And we have over 100 as well, in-person employers that will be present. So want to just make sure that if anyone's interested in even practicing interviewing and networking with employers, it's a great time to do it, a great place to do it.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much for that. And we'll try to put a link to that. Shawn, I'll connect with you separately on that, but we'll try to put something about that in the thank you email as well tomorrow. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us today. We have a couple of weeks off from the professional development series here. We're back in November with our next in-person event. That is called Stock Market 101, where you'll be able to learn some introductory tips to getting involved in the stock market, which everybody can do now in this day and age. So thanks again to Shawn Pewitt from the from Wayne State Career Services. Thank you everybody for attending, and we will see you next.